Hi. It's so nice to see everyone again virtually. You're on Music and Chat with Shirley Ong, and it's a good morning with the tilt of my camera from me to you in Singapore. Please say hi in the live chat there and let us know where you're tuning in from. And don't be backward and coming forward. And let me know if I'm loud and clear, because technology likes to have a little play with you first thing in the morning. One can never tell if it's also working fine. Anyway, back to this live chat right here. Remember to put in any questions you may have, and I will address them as the stream moves along. Please also assist me in boosting my number of subscribers. I'm hoping that all of you who tune in, either during the live stream or post live stream, when you have the benefit of your time to watch it, you will enjoy it and think I deserve a subscription. I want to say hi to all my friends, also in particular our ambassador for music and chat, Gary Mayulo, who jumped in and made sure that everyone was well informed that we were running late. Thanks, Gary. Cool. I don't want to drag the little chat time I have with you much longer. Our guest is waiting in the wings. Of course, he's tuning in from the UK, and it's his 1:30 a.m. So let's get on with the stream. I want to play for you a movement, or more like a movement and a half, from my large format piece. I've been known to call it my concerto. Some people have disputed that term. It doesn't bother me. I'll just call it the piece that I would like to record that comes in multiple movements. And this one is the Sarah and Isabel segment. Oh, hi, our friend from, let me move, your comment so we can see you. Hi, greetings from Netherlands. Yes, so nice to see you. How should we address you, and what time are you where you are? But thanks for joining us. I was gonna play you guys something. As I said, Sarah and Isabel. So let me bring on my Theremin cam. The weather here has been a little interesting, so it's been playing with the calibration on my theremin, so let me calibrate it and then play it for you, okay? So that was Sarah and Isabel, the first 1.5 to 2 movements of my large format piece, aka the concerto, whatever you feel like calling it. So I had my lamp turned off. I'm not quite sure what happened. Maybe it was on for way too long, but it's a-okay. So long as you can see me and I can see, I am a-o happy. So I wanted to say hi again to Dread Red Earth Dragon. Let us know your first name so we can greet you. And he says, or she says, it's 2:30 in the night. Yeah, that's right, 1 hour later on the clock compared to the UK. Wow, thanks so much for staying up to join us. So let's bring Bruce in before I do my little spiel on the theremin. So let's call him. Hey, Bruce. Hi, Bruce. Oops. I guess I'll call again. Oh. Oh, okay.
Am I there?
That is funny. That's technology for you.
Hi, Bruce.
Hey, Shirley. Have I frozen?
No, you're
Am I
good
there?
here. I think you might have to turn the volume down on your phone or other device that you are watching
Sure.
the live stream from. Just the volume. That way we
Okay,
don't
that's done.
hear you and me echoing.
Okay. Now I can. Am I actually there? Am I visible?
Yes,
Okay.
you're totally and
Well-
utterly. You can't escape now.
Okay. Well, hi, hello, and how lovely to be here again.
It's lovely to have you back, Bruce. Thanks for coming back for round 2. We have, various rounds for our special guests, and you on round 2.
I'm honored, really, to be, actually not just do it once, but to do it twice. Incredible.
That's how special you are to us.
Oh, you're too kind.
No, you're the one who's kind. You're there at almost 1:50 a.m.
Nearly 2 in the morning. But I did explain that I was going to have a disco nap before this, so I so I feel slightly weird. I feel a bit spaced out.
Uh-oh.
But in a nice, not a bad way. So I think it's going to be all right. I just hope I don't nod off halfway through, but I'm sure I won't. I'm sure I won't nod off.
I think you'll be good. Bruce, could you do us a favor? Could you move your camera on the horizontal axis closer to, so we can see more of the Clarivox? The other way? Yes, stop!
Oh, okay. This way. Is that better?
Less.
Less.
Less is
You
more.
So, do you want me to turn? Sorry, because I'm right. You want to see a bit more of the, because I'm not in real time on the telephone. So
So,
if I get out of the way, is that better?
no, can we have a little less of the Clarivox now on the horizontal plane? So
Less
turn
in
it back. Stop.
Okay. How about, you mean more like that?
Yeah, stop. Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Excellent. That's excellent. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks for humoring me. So let me do my spiel about the theremin. The theremin, as we all know, and thanks everyone for tuning in. I want to say hi to Brian as well. We haven't figured out who Dread Rat Earth Dragon is, and Brian is not Dead Rat. It's Dread Rat. But we have a viewing guest from the Netherlands who goes by the moniker Dread Rat Earth Dragon.
Okay.
And she or he hasn't been given us his or her first name yet, so we've been calling this person Dread Rat.
Dread Rat.
Dread Rat Earth Dragon.
Great name. Dread Rat Earth Dragon.
Very nice.
I think, yeah, that one, yes.
Yeah. So my spiel about the theremin, aka the etherphone or the theremin vox, was designed by Lev Theremin, better known as Leon Theremin, or the anglicized version of his name, Leon Theremin. He developed it during World War I. It made the rounds of international concert halls before garnering support in New York post-debut by the likes of Clara Rockmore, whom he was smitten with, and RCA. He wasn't so much smitten with the RCA, but RCA definitely snapped up manufacturing rights to his design. Much later, almost 3 decades later, the theremin and its design was given a comeback boost by Bob Moog via Bob Moog's theremin kits. It's been an instrument of much fascination and occupied the soundtracks of many a horror and sci-fi movie in the 50s, late 40s, over to the early 60s, around that period. And it's without a doubt the hardest instrument to learn how to play properly, or to make music out of, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So many are collectors and only a few have devoted the necessary years to master performance skills. And Bruce, you're a properly educated thereminist.
Well, the thing is, my problem is, Shirley, that I don't read music. So when you say I'm properly, educated, I am actually quite illiterate musically. I did have the good fortune to have a lesson or two from Lydia Kavina, who I believe you know, and she was, of course, Leon Theremin's great niece. And actually, I've got a picture here of Leon Theremin. This book, by the way, everything you just described, this book is it just has so much in it about Leon Theremin. Lydia obviously is mentioned, I believe. And so I just learned the hard way, like we all have done, I guess, a lot of us, the trial and error.
What inspired you to pick it up? Was there a moment where you crossed paths with it, or did someone throw the idea to you?
I don't really know when I think the first time I heard it was the day the Earth stood still. And it was like they did a thing on the television of horror films, and it included the science fiction film. And I think I remember sort of standing, I was supposed to be in bed, and I was looking through into my parents' into the television room, like squinting through the door and seeing, because I was so scared. And then I saw this shot of, is it Gort, the giant robot, or is it, as he comes out of the flying saucer, and you can hear the burner.
Oops, we've lost him again. I don't know why. I wonder if it's his connection. Let me try calling him once more. Skype 2.
Have we come back?
Hey, Bruce. I have a
Hi,
feeling
sorry.
it could be your connection.
Oh dear. Well, I'm pretty good at the thing. It's pretty good, you know, and it's late at night, so the signal was fairly clear. So I'm afraid we'll just have to persevere.
Yeah, no worries. I can persevere. I just
If
don't.
if yeah, sorry.
I just
go
don't
on.
want to wear you out. You're already. I know you had your disco nap, but. Which
No, I'm fine.
I've never heard of the term till you mentioned it, but I love it though.
I'm totally alert.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'll tell you what, if I turn off this phone thing, because that may be eating up some signal or something.
Oh.
So,
Okay, are you on Wi-Fi?
yeah, but I'm just going to take the phone out of the equation
Okay.
and just stay on the computer.
Clear up the internet superhighway a bit.
Yeah. Our signal's pretty good here. So, okay, so that perhaps might help keep things flowing. So I just got to the point where we mentioned good vibration, the Beach Boys. And there's a sort of urban myth, isn't there, that that's theremin.
But it's not.
But it's not.
And
Are you going to tell us what it is?
only if you're not. You go first. I could, but I'll let you do the honors.
Well, okay. I think Brian Wilson really wanted a theremin and he loved it, but he was a real perfectionist in the studio, as we all know. And I think he was very frustrated by the fact that you can't really, it's not a very repeat instrument, is it? You can play something, it's very hard to repeat the same thing over and over again, which is what Brian Wilson required. So the guy that had got to play the theremin part, he was a trombonist called Paul Tanner. And he took it upon himself to build if you like, a quantizable theremin, which used a sliding kind of device, which allowed him to actually hit the same note each time exactly, time after time. And that was called the Tannerin. So it's like a physical theremin. And actually very similar to Raymond Scott's Sonovox, which was an instrument that he commissioned from Bob Moog and his father to make for him, because he also wanted a quantizable theremin. So the Sonovox was probably the precursor to the Tannerin. Anyway, so it's not a theremin on good vibrations, but again, that's where we all kind of picked up on that sound. It's the sound of the theremin, isn't it? So beautifully played there. And I remember in the early 90s, just had a feeling about the instrument. And this was before I'd seen Steve Martin's fabulous documentary. And by the way, there's a quote here, which I actually have in front of me, which Bob Moog says. He says, in this documentary, which is called An Electronic Odyssey, he says, the theremin specifically, and Leon Theremin's work in general, is the biggest, fattest, most important cornerstone of the whole electronic music medium. That's where it all began. And it's so true, isn't it? So around the early 90s, a sort of zeitgeist, the instrument was going to make a comeback. And I remember thinking about it and having a half an idea about what it was and ringing up a hire company in London saying, look, there's this instrument, I think, I don't even know what it's called, but you play it, you don't actually touch it. It's got aerials sticking out of it. And, he said we might have known that it was called a theremin by then, but I can't even remember. And I said, look, have you got one? Do you have anything like this in your vast array of instruments? And I went quiet at the other end of the phone, and he said, you'll never find one, he said.
Oh, he did? Wow, that's mysterious.
And that made me... And I asked around, and it turned out there was a guy who used to work at the British Science Museum in London who had one. And he had two, actually. And they both belonged to a music hall artist in the 1950s called Musair, who had this act. And he went round playing the theremin, and one of the theremins that he had was on like a kind of literally a drinks trolley type thing, and he'd cut the legs off so he could move it round really easily. Oh. But he had two, and he by the time Richard knew him, he was in an old people's home. He was getting on into his 90s probably, and he'd retired. And he gave these two theremins to Richard Cole, who was the Science Museum guy. And I've got his phone number. I phoned him up, and just started chatting to him. And this guy is so out there, so eccentric. For example, he has recently installed a ballroom pipe organ in his house, and in his garage he's installed a full working Wurlitzer organ that comes up out of the floor in his garage with all the lights, because those organs used to rise up out of the stage, literally out of the floor. Wow. Anyway, so he's out there, and he plays electrical musical saw as well, wow. Which sounds incredibly similar to a theremin. Anyway, that's a really long-winded way of saying that's kind of how I discovered the theremin. And meeting Richard, he brought his RCA over to my studio and I had a go on it. That was the first time I'd ever played one. It was just an extraordinary experience. So it kind of went from there, really. I think it's a bug, isn't it? It's something you can't. It's like a strange addiction. I can't explain the fascination of theremin. I can't explain it. Can you?
That's a good question. I think, in my humblest, most honest opinion, that broadly speaking, two types of personalities: the ones who encounter a situation where they know nothing about it, but it fascinates them, and they want to know about it, and they try at every opportunity to become intimately acquainted with it. Then the other group who find the situation fascinating, they want to know it, but the moment they realize it's an impossible feat because it's all in their perception, they give up. And so I think thereminists, I would like to think we are in the first category because it is, I think on the first encounter, and if I may address Dread Rat's comment, he commented as we were talking about, how it's considered the most difficult instrument to learn how to play, and I said musically or expressively. Yeah. His comment was maybe the theremin being the hardest instrument to play is a bit of a myth. In many ways, it's a very intuitive instrument, and in a way, the part of the theremin we play is our own body. That's also, in my humble opinion, a little bit of a myth, that it is not the hardest instrument to play, and the way we play is with our own body. Unless we break it apart, we break that statement apart and clarify what that actually means. It's intuitive in that you can immediately get sound if you realize you need both hands. I've had people who try the theremin and use one hand and realize, there's no volume because you need the other hand for volume. And so to get a sound, it's very intuitive. And to bop your body around and just flail your hands around, that's very intuitive. It's like playing a game, kids in their games, I guess. You see a rope and immediately you want to swing it around or that kind of thing. That's the intuitive part. But when one has to then look at music, playing melodies, playing in tune, articulation. I'm very big on articulation because it's what gives music expression. If it,
Yeah.
anyone can, I shouldn't say anyone. One can play notes on a piano and say, I'm playing Mary Had a Little Lamb. But add articulation and you have Mary Had a Little Lamb with extra zing, that there is just playing the notes and then there is adding the magic to it where you bring in the attention of the people. I think Bruce and I, when we last spoke, we talked of people and their charisma. I don't know if you call it, but
Yes, we did. We were talking about what it takes to be a successful artist, the combination of and charisma being one of them. Just back to the playability. Sorry,
no, please.
no, this is in the book here. It says, I don't know if you can read that, but it says it's an advert for the RCA Theremin.
Oh, thanks.
An absolutely new, unique musical instrument anyone can play. I mean, that's how they sold it.
I remember that.
And of course, yes, anyone can play it. And sorry, I'm trying to remember how to pronounce the name of of our guest.
Oh, Dread Rat Earth Dragon.
Red Rat Earth Dragon. In many ways, yes. There's an artist going around at the moment who uses kind of like acid house sounds and drum machines and stuff, and sort of gyrates in front of the theremin and gets some really quite, adventurous things out of it. And that is easy to do. Frankly, it's easy to do. Anyone can do that. It's wonderful. I mean, the Claravox, which is behind me, now has a built-in echo device, a bit like a Moogafogger, and it's fantastic. You can just get immediate results with it. But of course, as you say, Shirley, it's like, but if you're going to try and play something that we would recognize as a tune and play it really, really well, by which I mean applying the kind of standards or criteria that we would recognize as playing an instrument well, then it is the most difficult, I think. I mean, compared to, say, a violin or a trombone, it's so difficult to play, if you like, with any degree of accuracy, if that's the criteria we're looking for.
Yeah, that's a good one. Thanks, Bruce. And as you were saying, to repeat the performance, I've never been able to repeat what I play precisely, the same way.
No, it's really tough. I know. I'm probably in that category as well. I mean, I can do, recording. I'll do a bunch of takes and join them together. Maybe, dare say, even use a little bit of auto tune. But not too much, because there's nothing worse if there's too much auto tune. But then that's just the same as singing these days as well. In fact, the analogy of vocal is also quite there's quite a connection there, isn't there, between singing and playing the theremin. You reach into yourself to get the note or the notes. And that takes a lot of practice to do it well, I think. I think
we were last talking about Clara Rockmore's aerial fingering, and you asked me, do you remember her quote? And I did find it, and she says about playing the theremin, the art of the theremin, before you do anything, you have to have music in your soul. Playing the theremin is like being a trapeze artist without a net. You don't know if you land correctly or not, but you take a risk and you jump, not only to arrive at the right note, but to hit the middle of the note so you'll be in tune. And she also says you have to have courage.
Yeah, damn right. Especially in front of an audience. It's one thing to be recording at home or playing at home or whatever, but when you're in front of a crowd, that's when it's I do like that comparison with the trapeze artist without a safety net. It very much feels like that, doesn't it? And that's interesting. I'd not hitting the middle of the note. That's interesting. I hadn't picked up on that before.
Yeah,
But,
I looked at that part several times to see if it made sense to me, as in applied to the way I play. And I guess what she's saying is neither sharp nor flat, you know, right center spot on. And that's hard.
Yeah. And it really is down to practice, isn't it? I think, and that repetition. But for our viewers, aerial fingering is a sort of very precise methodology. I mean, when I began playing, I literally just did it like that. I know some players still play like this. I've noticed that Dorrit, for example, Dorrit Chrysler, plays like this very effectively, actually. And I've played like this very effectively, but I think there's a real technique which I've never really mastered fully. Again, that's probably just laziness, actually, on my part.
If you're at all like me, I want to just play. I don't want to do the practice part. But through the years, because I write for myself, you know, all the pieces I play, I write, and all the orchestration and arrangements I do myself, because that's what I do anyway. So I can immediately jump on what I want to play, and as I jump on it, I experiment with how I would make it happen. So I have incorporated some of the so-called hand movements that look like it could be aerial fingering, but it's not. But it is very handy when you want to, let's say, do octave jumps or fifths, that you will always land close to, if not in the middle of your octave. Because there's no way to, as you know, there's no way to judge where that note would be. So you either get there or you don't.
That's right. Yeah, really.
So did you at any point in time decide that you wanted to perhaps add some repertoire to your hand movements, or you were just quite contented with the way you've always played it?
Well, I suppose I've been playing now for some years, and it's like a kind of any long relationship is that it goes through phases. So I'm coming back to thinking, actually, you know, I ought to apply myself a bit more. And in fact, I'm very pleased with this Clarivox behind me, because it's got such a beautiful tone. I haven't really fully figured out the linearity of it yet. It's a very some people have accused it of being an over-designed instrument because it's got so many features. So I'm still quite used to the Etherwave Pro, which has a different sort of, well, it's a different instrument really. So I think the Clarivox is, for me, is an opportunity to reassess my playing, is for me to look at it again. Part of the other reason for being a bit I'm a lapsed thereminist, if you like, as we speak, is because I've been working with some other players. I mean, Lydia, of course, is a very, I'd call her virtuoso, really. And this guy, Charlie Draper, who you know of, who plays with our group, the Radio Science Orchestra, he's just so much better in terms of, in the classical sense of playing, that he's been playing all at our gigs all the really difficult pieces, which I can't play, or have felt, you know what, Charlie, you play it, because, you know, really, you're in many ways a better player than I am. But then again, you get this question mark over the word better, don't you? And it's like, well, I know that I can bring a certain, as you, Shirley, and you and I, we can bring something of our own personality and expression to the instrument, which somebody else doesn't have. And it's unique to us. So we need to recognize that. So it's a balancing act, isn't it, between technique and expression and personality. So yeah, but I do want to practice more with this new instrument. Yeah, definitely.
Ooh, Don't give me ideas. I might have to write a piece for you to play. So you have to
Oh,
practice.
okay,
I have
all
done
right.
that for my friends before when they get a little lazy. I say, I guess I better write something for you to play. Then you have to practice because I would want to hear you play it.
That's a real challenge, a gauntlet, in fact. Now, actually, I have an instrument here. I'm not going to play. You're very, by the way, I enjoyed your pieces that you played just before we started. That was
Thanks.
good. That's
Thanks.
nice.
Thanks,
I
Bruce.
have that's all right. I have an instrument here in front of me, just like a handheld. It's not terribly sophisticated. But basically, the story behind this, now it's quiet, okay? To cut a long story short, I ended up visiting Uri Geller at his house
Oh, you did?
with my kids. Yeah. And I took a little handheld that was called, they were called long wave instruments, small handheld theremin with me. And he was fascinated by it. And he said, I wonder if I can play this with my mind.
That's so cool.
Right, okay, Uri. And we didn't get into it there and then. I said, right. And so I went off and we built this, which is a desktop theremin, which I now have set to a null point. It's completely null. Okay. So he can have this on his desk.
I'm going to just zoom in so the viewers can see the entire instrument.
Yeah. And I'll show you how it works. So it's really a toy, really, but it has the heterodyne principle and the capacitance of the human body to create a tone, a note, a musical note. There's no volume control as such. Anyway, look, unfortunately, there is no conclusion to this story because Uri hasn't got back to me on this. I said, look, I've built you a theremin. When can you take delivery of it? When are you going to start trying to play this thing, psychokinetically or telekinetically? But he hasn't got back to me. So
I'd be keen to hear updates.
Yeah. Well, we all would actually. So Uri, if you come on, man, pick up the phone, because I think it would be a terrific experiment. It's the sort of thing they would do at MIT or Stanford or wherever they do those weird
I
psychic
can
experiments.
imagine that it would be possible because, as you're saying it, and we all know it uses the body's capacitance, or at least our capacitance affects, in this case, the pitch. And that's what we want to do. We want to play the instrument. We want to manipulate the pitch. So if we are dealing with stored electrical charge, if he's able to throw off fluctuations in that sense, he could alter the pitch.
You would think so, wouldn't you? Yeah. I think maybe and this is especially these days, he may have a security issue with taking something like this into his house. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a valid point. But I think under the conditions, I think he would probably, because he is mixed it's mixed mediumship. That's the expression, I think. It's like some magicians, they find that when they're performing conjuring tricks, that real magic actually occurs. And I think Uri is enormously talented, gifted. So I think he could probably do it. I've tried, but I haven't succeeded. I think it would be great to find somebody that could do it, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
just to
it would
play
be fun.
Mine. Yeah.
Boy, you got me real intrigued now. And the problem with me is when someone drops a really fascinating idea, I want to jump on that adventure.
But there is this thing. There's this spooky element to the instrument, and why is that? Why is it spooky? Why do we think ghosts go woo woo woo?
Yeah, I know.
And why does it sound like outer space? You know, why does Moog? Have we had this conversation before? I don't think so.
No, the onomatopoeia aspect of the theremin's voice. Yeah, the ooh. Yeah, I know. I don't.
Is it just because there's a guy called Eric Davis? He's an author, and he's wrote a book called Technosis, and he speculates that these sounds remind us of science fiction. Is it because we've seen lots of science fiction films where they appear, these sounds, Moog and Theremin, or is it because they actually genuinely are connecting with some other side? No, but really, that's why maybe that's why we're so fascinated. We don't actually understand what's going on. We can't hear all the frequencies. We don't know how it's interacting with perhaps a different plane. I know.
I got a thought. You know how we associate sound with an object?
Yeah.
So if we see a person and we hear a voice, we associate that voice with that person immediately. I think it's spooky when we hear a voice and we don't see the body. And it's usually a human voice. And a human voice, when it's soft, and the voice of a theremin or even a musical saw or a sine wave that has some vibrato or tremolo and with some articulation that's far away or steep and reverb, could sound like a dismembered voice, you know. And if you cannot attribute that voice to some solid object, then it could be from another dimension or spiritual dimension. So then we start getting very worried. What do you think?
Yeah, that's quite a good theory, actually. Yeah.
Anyone out there, what is your opinion?
Is there anybody out there? Yes.
Oh boy, this is gonna be a very interesting live stream to archive.
I need a drink of water.
Yes,
Excuse
please
me.
do that. I'll do the same. Cheers with our drink of water.
Cheers. The water, yes, good. Yes, we need to just reflect on that. I think that one.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. Well,
So more study required
yeah,
in that area.
And you're right. I think the rise of pop culture, the rise of the availability of pop culture, you know, it used to be you have to go to a movie theater, watch a movie, but then later on you could have it on TV. So the more information there is available and the producers of the information gets to determine what the information is going to be. So when they dispense the information, you consume the information, that's your base knowledge, from which you then, you know, analyze and decide, oh, so when you encounter something similar, you go, oh, I remember, I saw it and experienced it there the first time, so this must be it. So maybe you're right about the sci-fi and horror movies and the sound effects they use, and because it was, oh, you know, this director saying, well, they used for Day the Earth Stood Still, a theremin, we gotta use that too. In fact, a friend of mine, Glenn, if you're watching in Nashville, he did like a B-grade type movie with a sci-fi band, and it's campy, and he was looking for someone to play theremin because he remembers his 50s sci-fi movies. And he wanted a theremin for the part, so there you go, you know. So yeah. Anyway, enough of me talking.
No, that's quite. I mean, absolutely. Actually, sorry, on the books and the spooky. Well, it's not really spooky, but there's this great book called Moon Dust as well, which is about all the. This was written with the guy interviewing all the guys that had walked on the moon, basically.
Oh, could
and
you
you've
hold it
probably
up
heard
again,
this.
please?
Yeah, it's called Moon Dust. It's rather marvelous.
Oh.
And right at the end, it describes how Neil Armstrong played. There was an album called Music Out of the Moon by Les Baxter, which was possibly the first lounge music album in 1947. But Neil Armstrong took a cassette of it up in Apollo 11. This was the first prototype Walkman, and he played Music Out of the Moon back down to bass, and so there's something very evocative about the fact that the first guy to walk on the moon took a cassette of the first Theremin record and played it back to Cape Canaveral to the engineers, and they wondered what the hell they were listening to. They had no idea what it was. Just such a powerful story, I think, of that. And I guess that's a very strong space connection, isn't it, really? Why did Les Baxter write an album called Music Out of the Moon? And then 20 years later, they took the music up, and now I'm rambling.
No, you're not.
But it is a kind of a romantic image, isn't it? I think that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that angle. I guess I was talking about the commercialism of of pop culture, of information that someone creates and then has the channels to send out and as who's to when you're sitting down to read material or watch TV or whatever it is, there's no one there to say, well, this is right and that is wrong. So you read it and you take it to be the truth, perhaps. And then that becomes, your book of truth, an entry in your book of truth. So, but the idea that there is more to why the voice of the theremin is associated with the areas or the entities that you just mentioned, is a nice angle. I was trying to say, because it's a less what you call it, clinical angle.
Well, also don't forget, Shirley, that Leon Theremin originally called it the aetherphone or etherphone.
Yes.
And ether was the substance that they believed made up outer space. They thought that space was a substance called ether.
Yeah.
That's I hadn't thought of that, actually. That's an interesting coincidence, isn't it? But then Leon Theremin was pretty out there. He tried to revive. I mean, he actually thought he could bring people back to life. Dead people, really.
Oh, that I didn't know. That's interesting.
Really, in this book about him, ether, music, and espionage.
Oh no!
A friend of his, their daughter dies, and he asks if he could have the body for a few weeks. But this is when he was experimenting with, inventing. He'd invented theremin by then. But he was into all sorts of stuff. So, and by the way, I don't think that's necessarily very sinister, but it's where he was going. He was thinking about electricity all the time.
Well, that's what we do now with the defibrillator, or whatever it's called, right? Yeah, you jolt people to life with electric charge. It's the same thing.
Yeah, right. There you go. So maybe,
So he was way ahead of everybody else, really.
He was very much so. Anyway, so we're digressing slightly, but no, it's fascinating. As we said, more research and study to be done in this area, I think.
Absolutely. Let's see. Anyone in the live chat with something juicy to add to our conversations? There's been a lot. It's been quite active, especially between Dread Red Earth Dragon and Gary.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So let me move on with some of the tracks you've played on or other people's compositions. And I have the first one I have is Thomas Dolby's album Oceana, which I believe was released somewhere in 2010, 2011, according to the album cover. And you played on the track Simone. I have a picture of the album cover. Here we are. This one is a compilation, I think, of 3 EPs. Urbanoa, Americana, and Oceana. Yeah, the 3 EPs. And the one at the bottom third of the album cover, you'll see track 10, Simone. I couldn't find Simone anywhere online, guys, viewing audience. If you can let us know, which means I have not heard it.
Okay.
But the proof I have here in the form of the album cover. And Bruce, you are acknowledged somewhere there in the blurb.
Well, that's nice. Well, you know, I know Thomas Dolby from many years ago. We met. Actually, we met through an advert in a magazine called. Well, it was a sort of music paper, weekly called Melody Maker, and they had a small ad section at the back where musicians did column. I think he'd advertised as a keyboard player or something. I can't remember quite. And I think I rang him up and said, looking for. It was more about songwriting, and we got together, and actually at the end of the afternoon we played each other some tracks and bits and pieces, and we got at the end of the afternoon we decided, well, yeah, we're not really compatible, are we? I don't think we can work together.
Oh no!
And so that was it. It kind of ended rather not unpleasantly. It's quite just a mutual feeling that. Yeah, I don't think we'd really hit it off, do we? Really?
How do you decide that if you can work together or not? Is this based on feeling or?
I know. At the end of the afternoon, we just thought, nah, it's not going to really. Probably isn't going to work out. Perhaps looking back, because we were both quite egotistical, both of us. And perhaps we respected each other, actually. We both thought we were, well, this guy's got something good going on. And about 9 months later, I formed a band, and I had management, and crucially, I had a bit of a budget. So I got this group called the Camera Club. So I was able to pay musicians. So I rang him up again and said, look, this is slightly different this time. Would you like to come play with us as our keyboard player? And we can pay you to do it. And he came down to the audition, and it worked out, and it went very well. And his name was Tom Robertson, by the way. But there was also his friend was called Tom Robinson. And over here in England, Tom Robinson was also an artist. And they had an agreement. They said, whoever gets famous first, then the other one has to change their name. So Tom Robinson, while we were working together as the Camera Club, had a hit in the British charts, which meant that Tom Robertson, our Thomas, had to change his name. That was the deal. And he came in one day and he said, I've changed my name. Yeah, I'm going to call myself Thomas Dolby. And we just laughed. We just laughed at him. I said, you're kidding, man. You can't call yourself Thomas Dolby. But of course he was dead serious. And that was it. So, he became Thomas Dolby, and the rest is history.
Do you know why he picked the name Dolby, the surname? Or in America, that's the last name? Do you know why?
Well, why? I think because it had technological associations. So we were all into craft work at the time, and groups like Telex, and it was kind of it had a sort of cachet to it by association because of Dolby noise reduction. Of course, now you've got Dolby Atmos as well, of course. But I think and I'm sure when I tell you this, he got into a bit of trouble, Ray Dolby, because Ray Dolby, who invented Dolby systems, his son was called Thomas. So it caused a bit of an issue. And I think they sorted it all out. They sorted it all out in the end. Out of court or whatever they do with these things. So he's still called Thomas Dolby, and I think it's a good name. And it really, I think it really helped for him to promote himself, particularly in America. So, and fortunately, he and I remained very good friends over the years. So when he asked me to play theremin on his album, I was delighted, and I said, Thomas, I'll do this. I'll just do it, man. A favor. And he came down to the studio. It wasn't original. He came down to my studio, sat there and produced me while I played the parts to his satisfaction. And when I said I'd do it for free, this is normally the other way around. He said, no. He said, no, I'm paying you. He said, he insisted on paying me. He wouldn't take no for an answer. So I guess that's because he wanted to make sure that it was an official session and all the rest of it. And that's fine. So I was quite happy to take the money, but that was a session. So
I'm curious, did he, so you said that he had an idea of how he wanted the part or the line to be. Was he familiar with the articulations you could do or whatever it was, or was it just a straight note to note type of thing?
No, I do remember, and he seemed to fully, even though he doesn't play theremin and isn't particularly interested in playing theremin himself, he fully understood the kind of limitations of my playing and what the instrument can do, because as we know, it's not very good with staccato phrases. Flight of the Bumblebee springs to mind. I've seen a few quite good mock-ups of that, actually. So he knew it needed to be legato, and the song was quite a sort of slowish type of tune. So I think he was singing me some lines. He'd sort of hum me a few lines, say, look, try this, try that. And so over perhaps the course of a couple of hours, I just gave him lots of alternatives as well. And then he said, yeah, it's going to take me a week to comp this, he said. So, and then started moaning about saying that actually all he ever does now at that time, because he was making an album with lots of players on it, he's just spending his entire life comping people's performances. And I know what that's like as well. But it turned out it's pretty good. It turned out pretty well, actually. Yeah.
You wouldn't happen to have a copy of it, would you?
I do have somewhere. Of course, I have a copy of it, and I can subsequently let you hear it if you've not been able to track it down.
Yeah. I have not. Yes, if you could, I'd be most pleased.
Sure.
Thanks.
Sure thing. Yeah.
So do you recall, I've got here monitoring, because, we need to hear to play. And that's always the bit that is difficult for engineers who have not seen, heard, and experienced the theremin to fathom. They assume that because it's electronic, there will be built-in speakers. If there are no speakers, that somehow you can magically hear it. And if you can't hear it, you can still play it. So how did you monitor your recording? Did you use headphones? Or because you would have to have a reference track for pitching somehow, right?
Sure. No, that was fairly straightforward. I think he came with the backing track, and I think we were working in Logic, so he gave me a slave reel, and it was probably a stereo track actually, and so I did all the takes, but I was just listening through the studio speakers.
Okay.
So just the normal studio monitors. But monitoring theremin, that puts me in mind of in-ear monitoring, Shirley. Have you ever done that? Have you ever had the in-ear monitoring for... And have you had it with the pitch preview where you can hear it continuously in your ear?
Wow.
This was something Peter Pringle told me about, actually.
Right.
He's pretty good. Because I had to do a concert with an actual live orchestra.
Oh, wow.
And it was playing. It was the most difficult thing I've ever done, especially not being trained classically. I had to learn the score by rote.
Wow.
So I had a score, and I was reading the score, but only, if you like, backwards. I'd listened to it, I'd learnt it, and realised what the notes meant after I'd learnt it. But on top of that, and this wasn't the Day the Earth Stood Still, it was the other one, the Spellbound Concerto, which is a beautiful piece to play. And in order to come in accurately, without... The only way I could do it was to have this pitch preview in my ear, which is where I could hear the theremin continuously in one ear.
So you're using the E-Pro, right, for that?
I think it was before I had that. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was a 91A, which is a Moog RCA lookalike.
Wow.
And I can't remember how I rigged it up. This is a few years ago, but basically what it means is you're hearing the note continuously. So you mute, okay, and then you find your note, and you know it's there. So when you lift up the hand to make the volume, you know that you're bang on for that entry note. But I don't recommend it as a way to go. It's too confusing.
Wow, you're brave.
So I would say the best monitoring is in-ear monitoring, as in a proper in-ear monitoring system, where you can pretty much hear whatever you want, get the mix that you want in your in-ear monitors. Sorry, I hope that probably sounds so totally confusing.
No, I went in ears.
Pitch preview.
Sorry, go on.
Slightly.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I went in ears for a short while for live performance. And when I say, like when you're playing with the band and the guitarist and the bassist one have amps on stage, and they tend to somehow, as one turns up their amp, the other one starts because they can't hear themselves and they want themselves to be louder, and the drummer then kicks in and you can't hear anything anymore. And as we said, to play a theremin, you must be able to hear to pitch. And then you need the reference pitch, otherwise you're still going to be out of tune. So I used in-ears for quite some time, but until recently, and when I say recently, I'll say a few years ago, in-ears were somewhat airtight, that's why you use them. But these days you have in-ears where you can dial in some ambient sounds. So you have the feed from the live stage along with just yourself, whatever you want in the mix. But of course, that costs a lot of money. And I didn't bother to upgrade. I started just going without in-ears and using a wedge, monitor wedge, or a amplified speaker on a stand kind of thing. But still, it's tough. And hats off to you with that orchestral recording, because I did something similar a year and a half ago, and I had never recorded with that engineer before, so they had no clue what the instrument really meant as an instrument, what it does and what it can or can't do. They just heard of it, but the producer wanted it. So I asked for, some kind of monitoring, and I didn't want to be a prima donna, I didn't want to over-explain myself. I just said if I could just have, because I don't want them to go, well, in that case, we don't need her anymore. She is so demanding. So I asked for just a monitor if I can, because I just say, I need to hear it to play it, because it doesn't otherwise have any built-in speakers, whatever I said. So came day to record with the orchestra was in the same recording room as I was. I think it was a 60 piece, and they had a small little amp on the ground for me, and some headphones, which were, I think it's called semi-open headphones, I think. I always say semi-closed, but it's the same thing, semi-open, I think. So you get some bleed from the outside world. So I kind of warmed up, we had a couple of runs with the entire orchestra and the conductor and so on and so forth. And they had the amp on and the headphones. So I kind of did a quick sub mix so I could hear what I need to. So when they start recording, all right, let's do a take, record, they turn the amp off. They turned the amp off, and I was like, oh no. I only had the headphones, and I can hardly hear myself because the orchestra is so loud. It's just...
Yeah, wow. Oh my goodness. How did you resolve? Did you get through it?
I just channel all the energy in my brain cells, and I said, you've done this many times before. Just go by your feelings. And it went really well. Initially, I thought, the producer's going to say, that was awful. Don't call us, and we won't call you or something like that. But they said, we were so thrilled. Anyway, there was a happy outcome to the whole thing. The album got a Grammy Award.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I was like, I don't believe this. This was the most harrowing experience because the amp got turned off, and I thought, boy, I'm sure they're gonna remove my playing from it, but they were really happy with it.
Wow, that's good. That's a hell of an achievement. That's brilliant.
That was funny in a scary way. It looks like during that time you were that period when you were recording for Thomas Dolby, and you also played on his concert at the Union Chapel.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I remember rigging up an old. In fact, when we last spoke, the speaker horn that I had in the background. In fact, let me bear with me.
Oh, okay.
I'm here. I'm still here.
Oh, good. We'll say hi to...
This, in fact.
Oh!
This, yeah.
Oh.
I put in a speaker under here.
Let me just zoom out so we can see everything. Oh.
And then had this literally on this stand here where this candle is, sort of behind me.
Oh.
And this is the most brilliant monitoring device for theremin. Yeah. So that's an alternative, okay? It's actually an old, it's a radio horn actually, but there you go. So, and I used that at the Union Chapel for Thomas Dolby's concert, which was bizarre because he said that we weren't allowed to rehearse. It was one of these slightly kind of Brian Eno-esque, right, let's erase the multi-track, or he was saying we're going to do a concert in front of everybody, but we're not allowed to rehearse, so we're going to have to rehearse live on stage in front of the audience. And actually, we did. I mean, I had to play theremin. Trevor Horn played bass, and Thomas Dolby played an upright piano, and we performed Airwaves, which is a fabulous song. but there were no drums or anything. It was very, very bizarre, but it kind of worked out. Yeah, it kind of worked out okay.
But did you had your parts ahead of time and you practiced individually?
I learned it from the record because I wanted some of these particular sound effects with some vocals to do, and Trevor took all the bass parts off the record, so we knew the record, but we went straight on stage. Quite, literally that was it. There was no preparation together at all. But that's how he wanted to do it, and I think he met up with some musicians he hadn't seen for a long time, and they all agreed to do it like that as part of, I guess, a sort of performance art, really.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and that seems to be a recurring theme in our chats.
Does it now?
Yeah, the last time we chatted, you talked about was it Michael? I can't remember his name. From Camera Club, who ended up practicing law. Who was it?
Oh, Matthew Sullivan.
Matthew.
Yes, Matthew, of course, spent a long time with Thomas Dolby. Worked on 2 or 3 albums of his. He was very much his right-hand man, as it were, for a while. Yeah. Yes, Matthew becoming a performance artist by turning himself into a lawyer. Yes, that's right. I remember that.
I guess that was a better option than being a surgeon.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah.
So around that same in that same year, you're or maybe you recorded prior to that year, but it was the Chemical Brothers album Further, which was released in 2010. Do you recall?
Yeah, well, that was what you would call a remote session. So I was given absolute carte blanche to do. Yeah, they just sent me the track.
Yeah.
And said that they just said do some stuff, So what I did with there, rather than just play a single line, I think I tracked myself up. I worked with one of my sons was the engineer, so luckily I didn't have to press the buttons to record. Which, as you know, when you're playing theremin, it's very helpful if someone else can operate.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, exactly. Particularly if you're creating chords, which is what I ultimately did. I sent them. I didn't let them comp it, by the way. I comped it. So I created these chords, so up to 4 or 5 notes of layered parts, and then I spent a long time editing that and getting it right. And I don't think I was using auto-tune at that point at all, so that made it possibly a bit more difficult. As I said before, you've got to be very careful auto-tuning a theremin, otherwise it's artificial. And so that was good. That was very successful. They really liked it. Again, it was a bit nerve-wracking because there were no parameters. It just said, we just want in on this. So I sent it off to them. And that was quite, I think getting paid theremin sessions are probably quite a rare thing, especially nowadays. Then it was, I did a few actually. I did there were a few sessions where I turned up to sort of be the section thereminist. But there's not a huge demand for it. So I was lucky with the Chemical Brothers. Of course, I was looking forward to the album being #1, but it wasn't, because there was a problem with that. All of their other albums are #1 in the charts. This one had some odd marketing faux pas. They'd done something wrong. Give away free, free gifts or something, and what it did was contravene the chart rules. So it never made it number one at all. I think it was like something like number 77 in the chart. The least successful album of all time. But nevertheless, I enjoyed doing it. It was a pleasure to be asked. It's because I know one of their engineers, a guy called Steve Dub. I've done a lot of work with him, so I think it came through him. So that was good. And
do you recall the name of the track you played on?
No, I'm afraid I don't. That's very session-y. Very session thereminist.
Yeah, they don't usually tell you anyway. Of course, unless they're your friends.
I shall have to. I will have to go back and listen to that. I'll go back and listen to it, see, and find the name of the track.
Yeah, so, let me know, please.
Yeah, I will.
Thanks. So when you recorded this remotely, did you use a DAW or did you have a hardware mixer, a physical mixer and a tape deck or something? What did you use? Do you recall? Because by this stage, I think you mentioned Logic. Were you using Logic then?
Yeah, I've been using Logic really pretty much since it came out. It used to be called C-Lab Notator. That's before it recorded. It was just a MIDI program, and then it became a digital recorder as well. And you could run it on PC actually, but then Apple bought it so that you could only use it on Apple equipment. So you got to buy a Mac if you want to use Logic. And Logic is, for me, do you use Logic?
Yeah, I've been using it since 2009, 2008, or 2007, around that time, right?
Yeah, well, it's brilliant, and you don't go back, do you? You wouldn't look back if people use claim that there are these other. A lot of people swear by Pro Tools, but I don't think Pro Tools is as musically instinctive as Logic. Logic is a musician's instrument. I'd say instrument. It's a musician's program, I think, whereas Pro Tools is a bit more of an engineer.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So yeah, I was using Logic. I had, fortunately, my eldest son, Kit Woolley, he was engineering, and by then he was getting pretty good at engineering, so that helped enormously. And I think I probably just sent them all the stems. And I gave them the option to mix the parts. So I gave them edited stems lined up from bar one of each theremin part that I'd edited, and they could mix the chords accordingly, how I wanted. So yeah, it was good. It was a very agreeable scenario, actually.
Yeah, very interesting.
And they insisted on paying me as well, so that's nice.
Oh yeah, I did find the album covers. So for everyone watching, here is the front of the album cover of Further, album by the Chemical Brothers. It's their 7th studio album. This is the back of the album, and it does have Bruce. It does acknowledge you. Middle column, bottom paragraph, it does say Theremin by Bruce Woolley. It just doesn't tell you which track on the album.
Right, okay.
Or the name of the track. But at least your name is there.
Well, that's nice. And hopefully they spelled it correctly, because that's usually the big bugbear of album credits, is that they spell your name wrong. Sorry, I'm just seeing if I get online. Signal seems to be a lot better than it was. So I'm just seeing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the.
Yeah, I can see it. I see. I'm watching on. Right, I can see the cover.
Okay, good.
Yes, it's important to get credits, because if you do something, I think, and this is something, of course, of the digital world, it's not so prevalent, is it? You can't see credits so easily now on Spotify, for example. I think but I think credits are important, and people like to read them as well. I know I do.
Yeah. I think the old days of LPs and even CDs, where you had the not the jacket, but the booklet, or yeah, and the jacket as well. You know, with LPs, you had larger real estate, so you could, yeah,
Gatefold CD.
yeah. But with downloads and all, the incentive to give more and or the ability to give more is not there. You know, when you download a track, unless it comes with extra stuff, you don't get to have a digital album cover or whatever it is. So you tend not to then consider acknowledgement, which is sad. But you get the acknowledgement on other sites where they take an archive, like a library of music. Hopefully you get the acknowledgement there. But yeah, it's increasingly difficult to find that. So speaking of, I do have a pic that you sent me of you playing at Mdm Jojo's. Did I get that right? Mdm Jojo's. This was of a younger you playing theremin. There we are. Soon. Do you remember that event? Can you tell us about it a little bit?
Oh, okay. So it's showing up. There's a time lag here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes, there's definitely a younger me there. Actually, I'm just looking to the left of the girl singer who's called Darby Brown. You can just make out Matthew Seligman playing there.
Oh, okay, let's see it one
He's
more
playing
time.
bass just to the left.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember that time very well. It was the theremin that I'm playing there is designed by a guy Tony, who was, I guess, he was at the forefront of theremin design in the early 90s when he'd met with Richard Cole, the guy I spoke to earlier, and borrowed his RCA theremin, and he sort of almost reverse engineered it. Anyway, he had a very good look at it. And he learned a lot from that, and he built this device that I'm playing in that picture, which we nicknamed the concert theremin. He built one for Lydia as well, which looked a bit like an alien, and we nicknamed that the B-flat theremin. Like a joke, really, a B-flat theremin. And Tony is sadly no longer with us, but that club was where we began. In many ways, it was a bit of a lifesaver for me, actually. Without getting too heavy, I got a bit disillusioned with music, and finding a theremin in the early days was just so inspirational. And it coincided with the easy listening revival. So that club where we were playing had an evening of exotic easy listening, and it was a kind of a time when it was almost a backlash against Britpop. So suddenly it was okay to like, Burt Bacharach or John Barry, who wrote all the James Bond music, and it was a kind of slightly ironic, knowing evening where people would dress up and listen to these, what would be previously considered, cheesy or unacceptable music for young people. But suddenly it became quite hip and quite fashionable. So I have an enormous fondness for that time. And that's when we started to really pioneer the theremin, and I think we were one of the only people in London to even have an instrument, let alone be playing. But now, of course, there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of instruments available. But around that time as well, we met with Bob Moog as well, who was just considering building his small ether wave kits. You know, in fact, I believe you've got one of those. Is that right?
Yeah, it's ether wave, not the kit version.
It's not the kit version. You didn't build it yourself. No, no, it was ready
yeah,
built.
it's ready built. But Bob did invert the volume antenna for me.
Oh, did you meet?
Yes.
To do that? What a great guy, yeah?
Yeah, he also did the same adjustment on my Etherwave Pro, which I don't use because this one is so much more handy.
Oh, right, okay. Well, how marvellous that you met him and that we both knew him. That's great. I've never met anybody, Shirley, with so many pens in his top pocket. It's classic. He was
the
classic.
Typical engineer's shirt with the pen.
Totally, yeah.
Bruce, I'm getting comments on the live chat that your audio is choppy. So I'm going to disconnect and connect you again. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I'm turning my phone off again. I wonder if that might have...
Yeah, I removed everything that I'm not using from my system. So I'm going to end the Skype and call you back, hoping that would help. Sorry to pause you this way. I'll call you immediately back. So, okay, here we go. Ending call. Okay, everyone, I'm going to try. Hopefully it will stop being choppy, but on my end, he was okay. So hopefully when it's all archived, we'll have a smooth audio stream. So calling Bruce again.
Am I there?
Yeah, I see you. Anyone in the live stream care to comment? Does it sound okay? Anyone else in your household using Wi-Fi?
Yeah. I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, it's possible. It wouldn't surprise me. Even this late hour. No, everyone should be in bed.
Everyone should be in bed.
They should definitely be in bed. Is it working better now?
You're fine on my side. Just because the viewers get to see what's spat out on YouTube, and I'm not.
Yeah.
So they will be the ones to know if it's looking, the audio is working fine or not. So I'm not touching anything. I'm letting them respond to me. But
I think that coincided with me. I started watching it again on my phone, so I've switched all that off now.
Oh, that's right, because I asked you about the pictures. Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Oh, dear me. So yeah, so we'll move on from Mdm Jojo's and reminiscing about the good old days and Bob Moog with his pocket full of pens. Not pocket full of rye, but pocket full of pens, to a little small part that you played in the Hills Are Alive segment of the 2001 Moulin Rouge movie version. I got a clip, guys. Can I turn up my mic? Oh, now it seems that my microphone is soft. Hold on. Hello, testing. Okay, I hope that's better. Okay, so I'll play this clip. I'll just have the audio for the very first few seconds, just in case they, in case what's the word? Can't quite think of it now. So here we go. Yeah.
After you. Yeah.
So here we go. All right. So I hope you saw that. It's just the clip is only of the portion of where The Hills Are Alive is featured, but the audio is only at the very start where you hear Bruce's theremin line begin, and the first part of the voice going, "The hills are," and then no more audio. So tell us about this gig. How did you get it? Were there any instructions? Did you record this remotely, or did you have the fun adventure of going to the studio? Who produced it? Did you meet the people?
Yeah, good questions. Just backtracking slightly, after the Mdm Jojo's experience, we got to meet Marius de Vries, who is a record producer who worked with all sorts of people. But I think originally he worked on the first York album. That's how he came. And he was also in a group called the Blown Monkeys as well. But he's a good producer. I think he's operating outside of LA now. Anyway, the group from Mdm Jojo, the Radio Science Orchestra, ended up writing an end theme title for the film called The Avengers, not the Marvel Avengers, but the Emma Peel, John Steed English television program Avengers. And so we got to know Marius, and then after he'd finished the Avengers film, he was working with Baz Luhrmann on Moulin Rouge, and we kept the connection going. Now, we didn't write any songs for Moulin Rouge because they used all covers, and they wanted a scene. Chris Elliott, who's in the orchestra, was doing some arrangements for them, and they wanted this scene where the guy's playing a kind of futuristic electronic musical instrument. So they thought that Chris suggested that we use the theremin to recreate this. And looking back, I think what they were trying to do was to somehow reimagine the telharmonium. I don't know if you know the telharmonium, surely, but
Yes.
Moulin Rouge is set at that sort of turn of the century. It's almost steampunk era, lots of top hats and all the rest of it. And I think the telharmonium historically was built in 1906, before valves. So it was this gigantic electric organ, actually, housed in New York. And it weighed 200 tons. I mean, it was just enormous. And the only way you could listen to it was through the telephone system of the time. So you'd subscribe and listen to the music being played in this subterranean warehouse where they built this 200-ton iPod, literally. And it was relatively successful commercially, but then I think it started to interfere with people's telephone calls, and eventually it got scrapped. Anyway, that's what I think they were trying to do. Now, as far as I know, there are no recordings of telharmonium in existence. Nobody knows what it really sounded like. But we can imagine it was a bit like a weird Hammond organ. So again, Chris and I decided to track up the theremin for The Hills Are Alive with the Sound of Music. But I was slightly conflicted because it had to be comedic. So I couldn't play it too well, actually, which was easy in a way. So we kind of went with first takes and this sort of thing, and I deliberately played slightly off key in places. So not to make it too perfect. The whole idea was it was a bit cacophonous. And so that's really the story of that. I mean, the sad part of that story is that I didn't get a credit. And I remember talking to the Hollywood producers over the phone saying, look, am I going to get a credit for this? And he was saying, no, sorry. They'll credit a carpenter or something. But, if you play a track one instrumentalist who played on one track on a Hollywood film very rarely gets the credit, unless you have to fight for that. And of course, in retrospect, I could have just said, "Okay, if I don't get the credit, then you can't use it." It's simple as that.
That's a good
But
point.
I wasn't that hardcore at the time. I wasn't about to say that.
Yeah.
But
I guess if it's a work for hire and you are paid for it,
exactly,
you don't really have any weight to. Do you? No.
No, it's like it's like expecting individual members of an orchestra or a guitarist in a Hollywood film. You don't see that. You don't see the credits.
Yeah.
As I said, maybe now I would have approached it slightly differently. So, but apart from that, it was a delightful experience.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure.
So, am I still there? Have I disappeared?
No, you're still here with me. You're very clear. Your video and your audio are not syncing up, but your audio is clear to me. It's just that somehow when it's being streamed, I think it's a mix of the Wi-Fi and the streaming, it being causing the jittering in your voice. But don't worry, I'm recording this at the same time. So if it's really bad, I will keep the archive because I'll keep the live stream because of the live chat, and I might attach my recorded version so that people can watch that as well for the clarity of the voice. Don't worry, I've got backups.
Okay, sounds
just
good.
in case. We definitely will have to do round 3 anyway.
Well, I think you should speak to Charlie. I really do. That's just to remind everybody. Charlie Geller is the lead thereminist in the Radio Science Orchestra currently, and he's an absolute virtuoso, and is very entertaining. I think you should definitely try and contact him. Surely, he has a completely, his whole different angle. So that'd be good.
I am thinking the Radio Science Orchestra, as I was suggesting. So as many of you as keen to join the live stream would be fun, I think, because I think the group itself, or the group and the act, are quite interesting topics, if you know what I'm saying. I hope I got it right. and
That's very easy to say, so isn't it? Yeah, that'd be great.
And but I will get in touch with you about arranging the live stream probably next year, because we coming to the end of this year, and I have, I think, 2 live streams left before the end of this year, unless I haven't found anyone for the 18th of December yet. So unless if most of you are free on the 18th, which is the weekend before Christmas, let me know.
Well, let's have a look at that. And that would be at this, presumably the same sort of time. Is that correct? Or
yeah, I could bump it up to 12:30 a.m., which would be my 8:30. I'm again trying to accommodate people from both hemispheres, and it's really difficult to do that. So Singapore and Australia, as you know, will be about this time. Then the States, we would then push it into the dinner time or the afternoons. The reason why I had it a little later, so that if they are having dinner, they can retire to the show. But if I push it to 12:30 a.m. over where you are, would that be workable or still bad?
I'll just ask the guys. See we can discuss this further. Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So, let me see.
Yeah, we want to be moving into the metaverse as well. So
Oh,
we're really, we're
yeah.
really looking at this stuff. I think so.
Okay.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, I hear you. Um,
Yeah.
So it looks like they can hear us again. Can you hear? You can hear me clearly, viewers. It's just Bruce's voice that is still choppy. Is that right? While you respond to my question, because it takes like 30 to 90 seconds to get over there. Let's see if I have any other question. I do have a couple more also questions for you. And I'm going to skip this one. I actually, from our first chat, you gave me some media assets, and I found your video clip from the film you produced, GOG.
Oh, yeah.
It looked really interesting. Was that, were you considering being a filmmaker?
It's always been. If I hadn't been a musician, I would have gone into films, directing films. So it's not my main job, as it were, but I love doing it. I absolutely adore filmmaking. So it's more of a slightly more on the sideline, but something I've always been involved in one way or the other. I got very carried away. I worked with a girl called Polly Scattergood, and we did a cover. We did a reimagined version of the video called The Radio Star, and made the entire film on an iPhone. I think it's probably on YouTube actually somewhere.
Yeah, I found
Really
it.
I was pretty pleased with the way that turned out. I'm interested in the way technology has evolved. A lot of my previous films were made on 8 Super 8mm, which you can still work with nowadays. It's like you wouldn't necessarily make a film on Super 8 now. You're slightly crazy, probably. And GOG was almost demented endeavour. I spent a year making that film, partly because I sort of dropped out of the music industry for a while. And every frame of that film was taken single-handedly. It's like an animation.
Like a stop motion?
Yes. So people are moving very slowly. They're moving very slowly, and you click the cable release to take a single frame. And what that does is remove the blur of people moving. So you get this pixelated, as in the original word pixelate. It looks like a Ray Harryhausen animation, slightly jerky, scary, Jason the Argonauts type look. And that was hugely satisfying. Funnily enough, that imagery in that film, really, I truly believe, led me on to work with Grace Jones, because she's a bit scary like that. Like a kind of Ray Harryhausen animation. These sorts of things you can't really explain how they work. Again, back to that slightly mystical, the sort of prescience of songwriting, creating music where you predict the future without realizing it, that sort of thing. It's all weird. It's weird stuff. I did that again.
Yeah.
Not necessarily making a film, but I definitely want to make more movies.
I did take a clip from the movie file that you sent me. Shall we watch it?
If you've got time to watch a bit of GOG, I'm not going to stop you. Is that what you mean? Is that the one you mean?
Yeah, just about 17 seconds of it. So the...
Is that with the music?
Yes.
So
Can
music
I
of
play?
that, I think, is is Mr. Ron's.
Oh, is it?
I think so. Yeah. Which is okay. I can see this. No, I won't switch my phone on. Go ahead.
I hope I won't get in trouble with copyright.
No, I don't think you would.
Okay, fingers crossed. Here's the GOP clip.
I wish I could see this because I can't actually see it. Oh, can you look at it in retrospect?
I see what you mean. The
Did I send you this film?
yeah, from your when we before our first chat.
Yes.
That you sent me some files. I looked through them to see if there were any others that I hadn't used, which I thought could be fun.
Because we subsequently edited some of the visuals to the Mr. Ron's theme, which is a Jerry Anderson soundtrack.
Oh! I get it. I remember now. Boy, speaking of 6 degrees of separation or 2, I'm beginning to discover my friends around the world all know each other because they've worked on similar projects or they've worked with similar people. But I have a friend, Lee Stringer, who worked with Jerry Anderson on shivers, Captain Scarlet.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Well, Captain Scarlet is the Mr. Ron's theme, the song which I sent you recently, which uses GOG as its visual accompaniment. That's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah, so...
Captain Scarlet. Wow.
Yeah, it's just... I bet you if I bring all my guests together, it'll be quite a crazy party of sorts.
Yes. You should have everyone over for Christmas dinner.
I would love to. It will happen one day. I'm very sure it will. As in physically present, not just. Although online would be fun too. Final 2 questions. First is about technology, but you've been a champion for technology so far in today's live stream. But what would you say is the best thing, technologically speaking, that has happened to the music industry?
Well, I suppose, it's what they call a double-edged sword, but the democratization of music is probably one of the best things, because it means that anybody, if they really want to, if anyone wants to, they can make their own records and release their own records. Whereas before, there were the gatekeepers, the filter systems. I mean, gosh, when I started, just to make a recording, you had to get into a studio, and you needed budget, you needed money, and that acted as kind of, as I said, I use the word filter. And I think it's wonderful now that people can just go out and buy the gear and make tracks and make music, and that's got to be a good thing. Of course, the downside to that is, so that's one of the best things that's happened. The downside to that is that there's so much noise, and just even a few years ago, if you look at Music Week, you see in 1 week you would have 200 records released. That was it. 200 records in a week, and that sounds quite a lot. Maybe 3 of them will get in the charts, 4 of them will get in the charts. But now there are 65,000 songs a day being uploaded to Spotify. That's a day. That's an international figure. So the downside is that it's actually probably more difficult to break through that noise and to be heard. So on the one hand, the best thing is that anyone can do it now. The difficulty is so much more competition. So that's the first thing that comes to the top of my head, actually.
So with all this noise and your long and illustrious career, what's compelling you to continue to create new music?
Quite a deep question. I think when you go back and said, would I want to be a film director? And I did partly want to be a film director. However, music is the thing that really grabbed me.
Uh-oh. We need his final words. Hold on. We need to dial in again. Are you there?
I'm on the phone now. Hang on.
Okay.
Can you try to call me again, please?
Yes.
Well, apologies to everyone for the constant dropping out. Am I there? Okay.
Yes, I can.
I want your patience, by the way, because it is annoying when these things happen. And your question, Shirley, was I don't really feel different in that sense. So music grabbed me. Once music's really grabbed you, it's very hard to let it go. And if you do just let it go, you're probably hiding from yourself. You're probably hiding something. It's always going to stay with you. And so I still really enjoy it. Really. And I can keep doing it for as long as possible.
Wow. That's pretty deep. Our chats with you are always deep, meaningful, and very profound, which is what I really enjoy. After the tech talk and everything, it's nice to sort of kind of luxuriate in a little bit of deep, meaningful talk because, ultimately, we are not just robots. But thank you so much for spending your early hours of the morning with us, Bruce, again. And let me know if maybe the 18th of December for Radio Science Orchestra might be a good date for you guys. And I can push it up an hour to 12:30 a.m., after which I might lose the southern hemisphere.
Sure. Yeah.
But I know it's a toughie. But let me know what everyone says, and I'll try and accommodate. Bruce, we've totally and utterly enjoyed having you on the live stream, and I hope you had fun too.
Thank you. It's been a great pleasure. Really, my pleasure. And thanks for, as I say, putting up with all the intermittence, and thanks for watching. Really, and great to see you again, Shirley.
Yeah, likewise. Always your smiling face. I love people who smile a lot. It makes me very happy because I tend to smile a lot too.
Right. Well, I shall bid you good night.
Yes, likewise.
And
Yes, so you take care, Bruce, and we'll see you very soon. And stay safe. Thanks,
okay,
Bruce.
bye everyone.
Bye. Apologies for the audio problem. I hope when it's all finished processing and archived, we might not have the choppiness. Fingers crossed, but if we do, I will do an edited version of just a segment where he starts getting choppy and upload that so you don't miss any of the good stuff. Thanks again for viewing. I hope you subscribe if you haven't already. I'm trying to boost my subscription numbers. I do it, by appeal. I don't run any bots or pay anyone to add subscribers to my Toho. So it's all up to my viewers and people who come along to my channel and say, oh, this is really nice. I think I'll subscribe. So if you could, I'd be most grateful. Next episode, with the live music scene opening up again, our friends Andre Chomley, Ben Travers, and Keith Wetchler have been back on the road with the Pat Metheny Trio, Twiddle, and Dream Theater. And they will join us next episode with anecdotes as band technicians, also known as the crew, touring with those bands, including, and then three of them have also worked together on UK the band's tour, supporting John Wetton, Eddie Jobson, Terry Bozzio, and others. So please tune in a couple of weeks. I hope Dread Red Earth Dragon, you would join us then too. It will be a fun one. Those three are they're very good friends and also full of fun and laughter. I think I'll be cracking my ribs, if there's such a thing, with them in a fortnight's time. Oh, thanks, Dread Red Earth Dragon, for subscribing. And my music is available on my Bandcamp store if you'd like to enjoy more. Otherwise, stay well, be good to each other, and I'll see you soon. Bring your friends, and take care till then. Bye. I'll stick around for a few minutes in case anyone has questions on the live chat. Okay, but I'll do the outro for now. Thanks and see ya.